everyone. Welcome back to PICPA Abu Dhabi podcast. And our episode today is about how to set up business in the Philippines. I'm your host, Jara Marie Fuentes, and I'm super excited for this podcast since we have a very interesting topic. And of course, we've got some amazing guests lined up who are going to break down everything you need to know about starting a business. So let's jump right in and let's meet them. So first up, we have a CPA lawyer and the founder and group managing director of LiveSync Accounting. Let's give a warm welcome to Attorney Dexter Listajo. Good morning,
Hello.
Attorney Dex.
Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Maybe you can tell us a little about LiveSync Accounting.
Yeah, so as Jara mentioned, I'm the managing director of LiveSync Accounting. A little background about our company. So we've been founded in last 2014. We've been 10 years in business this year, and this is founded with my wife. Currently, we have two offices here in Dubai and in Makati. We have more than 40 people as our strength in the business. We've been serving a lot of clients, particularly on small businesses from different industries, from fintech, small startup, to single mom business, to a restaurant, cafe, and consulting company. Our core service is accounting, bookkeeping, and tax. That's about us.
Thank you, Attorney Dex. And I think it's a global firm catering to a lot of other regions like Middle East, Europe, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So majority of our clients obviously is from UAE, but we have clients also in Saudi and other parts of GCC. We are also assisting clients from UK and some part of Europe, and also growing numbers coming from the Southeast Asia and in the Philippines. Yeah.
Okay, so that's LiveSync Accounting. And happy 10th anniversary
Thank you.
to the company.
Thank you.
And of course, next up, we have another fantastic guest from LiveSync Accounting. So the one managing the business. Let's welcome Assistant Manager, Mr. Carlos Blanco.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone from the Philippines. So, good morning from there over
good
there,
afternoon.
and good afternoon from the Philippines. Thank you, Miss, for the introduction.
So you've been with LiveSync Accounting for how many years in those 10 years?
So I think I've been around LiveSync Philippines for around 2.5 years now. This coming September, yeah, 2.5 years.
And now you're assistant manager there. That's so amazing in just a span of 2 years.
It's a big shock. It's a big, but it's all worth it. Yeah, it's a good, fast-paced job.
Okay. So I feel like, and I am sure that LiveSync Accounting is in good hands with this too. And last but definitely not the least, we've got someone who's making waves in the industry, like the chairman and co-founder of the newly established MBNA CPAs, Mr. Chad Michael Bayon on. Good morning, Mr. Chad.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all of those listeners of our podcast. Thank you so much, Ms. Jara, for the introduction. And what would I say?
Well, you can tell us about what MBNA CPAs do.
Actually, in BNA CPAs, we wanted to consider ourselves as an international accounting firm because we wanted to. I think on our first year, we wanted to establish first our presence here in the UAE at the same time in the Philippines as well. So we have recently opened our branch as well in the Philippines, and we wanted to make the first, or you could say the one of the Filipino-owned accounting firms who have presence worldwide. So this is actually our aim. We wanted to we establish here in the UAE, and probably will be establishing in Singapore, in Canada, in US. Who knows? So this is actually what we are aiming for. We wanted to establish accounting firms, our accounting firm, in each of the countries where we will be able to serve them because we know Filipinos are actually all around the world. So, and Filipinos are very known to be one of those service providers who are really keen into details, at the same time who is hospitable, at the same time understanding also with most of the clients. So we wanted those perspective to be provided to each of the countries, and we wanted to be known as the best provider, or not only us as the accounting firm, but we wanted to bring that Filipinos are the best service providers in terms of finance and accounting. So this is our aim. And in terms of services, we have a lot of business services that we have offered, probably accounting and finance, but we are also highlighting into the perspective of financial modeling, financial planning and forecasting, budgeting, at the same time, the internal review and quality control of the companies. So this is the chunk of the services that we are actually highlighting with. Over to
So
you, Jack.
thank you, Mr. Chad. So, welcome to you and also MBNA in the industry. So, I know that each of you brings a ton of experience to this table. One's been in the industry for over 10 years, the other one is managing the business, and other one is bringing fresh insights from a new business. So, I'm really excited to hear your stories. So, if you're keen to set up a business in the Philippines, let's dive in. Or should I ask the question, open-minded ka ba?
Parang yan yata yung nakalink doon.
So, to kick things off, maybe we can start by sharing just a brief overview of the Philippine business environment. So, maybe Mr. Chad, you can also share with
Yeah,
us.
sure. I'll start maybe with the fresh introduction why we have recently opened our business in the Philippines. Why Philippines? So recently, last 2 years ago, when I was employed with a previous company, I have seen that they have predicted that in the year 2036, Philippines will be one of the top countries who will be um next to it will be something like the next UAE or the next Singapore of the Asia. So technically, with that being said, probably there will be a lot of changes on the next years in the Philippines, and probably it is one of the areas why we have informed, or why we have decided that we need to have a presence in the Philippines. And aside from that, um, Philippines is actually one of the countries where the service that would be provided would be on the top notch of quality, but on a lower cost. So if we wanted to have a cost-effective service provider, Philippines would be one of the best service provider as well. And even for the work or the workforce that we have, um, most of our workforce is actually really high or a top-notch workforce. So in terms of communication as well, they are really really good at. They are also understanding in terms of their client management. So I guess that's the main reason why we have started to have a presence in the Philippines. And aside from that, growing Philippines is also growing. There's a lot of business that has been established now in the Philippines.
Yeah, and I totally agree that Filipinos is the best service provider with top-notch quality and low cost. How about you, Attorney Dex? So 10 years ago, why did you founded this LiveSync Accounting? What was the Philippine business environment back then?
So 10 years ago, actually the having to serve Filipino clients was not yet in our radar. Our main focus was actually to start with UAE. And at the time when I discovered that there was an existing technology where we can actually serve our clients with their accounting and finance requirement using technology, it just hit me, and then just make the big leap. And I was not really wrong, because even after during COVID, while everybody was striving to adjust on a work from home setup, our team was very at ease already in that situation, and generally there was no change in the way how we work, so that was an advantage. But looking and focusing on the Philippines itself, I see in the last 10 years, I see significant changes, particularly in two parts. The growth of small businesses and the demand for being service providers from the Philippines itself. I'll start with the business, small businesses. Again, because of technology, the information on how to start a business, the technical aspect, um, the enforcement of passion of certain specific niche. Let's say it could be agriculture, it could be technology also, or just having a simple service company, has grown so much because of the content that we can see from YouTube University and even in Facebook. No, and in fact, there's a drive of a lot of inspiration coming from different individuals that really influence and encourage the setup of small businesses. And if you see in the last 5 years, you would see instant millionaires, okay, um, in their business because they are being driven primarily by technology and social influencing, right? So I see the pattern to continue. I see also the pattern where younger individuals fresh from college would really try to risk it and put up their businesses. There's a lot of opportunity in the Philippines in terms in consumer side because, of course, the growing population itself. And what it used to be 10 years ago or 15 years ago, a small town, very quiet place, now become a blossom kind of semi-metropolis where people are coming together, maybe for schooling or for other activities, and that creates demands internally. So I've seen one particular place where it used to be, um, uh, very drawback, and then suddenly it become a thriving business. Also, the because of the pandemic, it also drive additional industry. For example, restaurant, virtual kitchen, delivery companies. Okay, people are providing services online. So these are things already, and also drop shipping also, where we buy goods from China, creates also the opportunity to sell items in the online platform. And if you look at our top online platform e-commerce in the Philippines, you will see a lot of resellers. So yes, the growth of small businesses are really growing, and we see the same trend. Now, on the second aspect, which is the service providing, in the last 3 years, the demand for Filipino talent has grown significantly, and this is very true in our industry. In fact, it is very difficult right now to really get accountants in the Philippines. The reason being is that there is already a preferred option for many of them to go and provide virtual accounting service. So there could be big companies from Canada, Australia, and US. These are the top three countries who's getting an outsourcing. So the outsourcing business is getting bigger also. And not only that, the benefit is coming not only from an existing small outsourcing company, but you can see small agencies developing teams together to provide this service. So yes, I would agree with Chad. I would not be surprised, and even for myself, this is my belief. Even years ago, even when I started this, that the Filipino talent is there, and they are superior in terms of communication, in terms of culture fit. I think we are the easiest type of people who can culture fit to any kind of organization. So the Philippines and its people brings a different and very unique advantage in terms of service providing.
So thank you, Attorney Dex. I totally agree. And I know that people watching this will be also inspired, as you said, that we're easily influenced. So when they hear your stories, maybe about setting up a business that you are very successful, I hope that they can also encourage them to actually take their own leap. as I
Uh,
also agree that Filipino talents are superb.
yeah,
And
I like
Philippines is
what Attorney Dex had mentioned. Culture
which
fit, culture fit. This is
mhm,
one of the best areas of Filipinos. And
yes.
you know what? I just wanted to add. Um, there was some locals here in the UAE that had mentioned that they wanted to hire Filipinos. The reason why they hire Filipinos is they wanted to make sure that the environment in the workplace is a happy environment. Adding one Filipino only will be making the entire environment become a happy place. And aside
Yeah,
from that,
because
aside from being a culture, it's more into being adaptive.
mhm.
Filipinos are really adaptive. So I guess that's the reason why we are investing in the Philippines as well.
Yeah, and the
Sure.
work ethic of Filipinos, the energy, it's always so high that makes you really happy and enthusiastic as well.
Correct.
And I know that Philippines is indeed dynamic and evolving. And let's ask Mr. Carlos. So, as someone managing a business as well, can you tell us what makes the Philippines an attractive destination for businesses, maybe both local and foreign?
Thank you for that question, Miss. I think the answer was already said by Attorney Dexter and Sir Chad earlier, but I guess for me, just to expound further, I would have to say it's really the people. It's the Filipino people. Why the scenario or setting up a business here in the Philippines is attractive. Foremost, of course, it's because, as Sir Chad mentioned, Filipinos are very adaptive with the advances in technology, and it's because of the attitude we bring into our profession. Despite having a studious, let's say, work schedule, we still find joy in what we do. We try to do our best, give our best 100% in whatever we do. And it's like we treat our work as really a part of us, as our in a way a part of our identity, and it's something that defines us. So really, the number one reason why it's a good thing to set up business here in the Philippines is because of the people. Other reasons would be, of course, the other benefits that the government offers. In going on a technical side, what the government offers to foreign investors and how it mitigates certain tax considerations or benefits to domestic entities. So let's just take, for example, when COVID struck, the COVID pandemic struck here in the Philippines, one of the things that the government did was issue a tax updates to ensure that businesses wouldn't be too pressured with the ongoing tax regime, or let's just say the Philippine tax system adapts to the scenarios that would benefit the business in general. So there's a certain balance that the government wants to achieve with these businesses and the like. Yeah, so I
I
think that
wanted
would be
to,
my very concise answer. Yes, attorney.
yeah, I wanted to add on that there because I was just reminded Carlos and I, we had a client actually, we have several clients that are not really um, from Philippines, right? So we have clients that are headquarters in the Philippines, coming from Singapore, from Malaysia. So yeah, I agree with with Carlos actually. So it's not only beneficial for Filipinos as or OFWs, for example, but actually it's very attractive with certain businesses to put up business in the Philippines as an HQ company, and that is because of the people. So we have clients here in the UAE, even in Southeast Asia, that intentionally set up the business in the Philippines because they have access to world-class talent. And that's the only reason. And we know this, Carlos, right? So we have clients
Yes,
that
attorney.
we've set it up already only for the purpose of access to world-class talents.
And I think like if we want to invest in the successful and right business, we have to invest in the people as well because it's the people who's actually driving the business down the way to
Yes.
success.
Agree.
So thank you all for your answers. Now let's maybe move on to choosing the right business structure. So let's have on to the process of really setting up this business. So maybe we can explain the differences about the sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and cooperative. Maybe what are the factors that entrepreneurs should consider when deciding which structure is best for them. So, Attorney Dex, what is the company structure of LiveSync Accounting?
So currently, we're all structured in the Philippines. We are structured as a corporation. Okay. Just to answer your question, what are the different legal structure present in the Philippines? So I can name one, two, three, four. I think I'll try. So first would be the sole proprietorship. So this is a legal structure wherein the owner is the registered person, and his business is attached to his person. They are not separate. The asset and the liability of the business is connected to the owner itself. So when you say sole proprietor, it's only one person. Okay. It has a different requirement. I'll go to that later. A second one would be partnership. Okay, so partnership is two or more individual. The difference, normally this is done for purposes of practicing a profession like accountancy, engineering, architecture, right? So professionals and lawyers, right? So they use partnership as a mode of legal structure for them. This is different because this is the agency that regulates it, alike from sole proprietorship. Nor it is a DTI and the local government. For the partnership, this is regulated by the Security Exchange Commission. Okay, and they follow the partnership law in the Philippines to get that structure. But in terms of whether they are connected to the business, the answer is still yes. So the business are the personality of the business are being shared with the partner. Okay. The difference with the sole is they are two or more, and this is with the Security Exchange Commission. The third one will be, which we used, is the corporation under the Corporation Code of the Philippines. This is regulated by the Security Exchange Commission. The unique thing about having this structure is that the owners and the business are totally separate. Okay, so they have different personality. An additional advantage would be the asset and the liability of the business are totally separate, from its owners. Okay, so there's a what we call in legal terms a bill dividing this personality, and this is very attractive because of the advantage of limited liability aspect of the structure, where because they are separated, the what's going on with the corporation would not necessarily affect the individual owners. Okay, unlike sole proprietorship and a partnership, they don't have that general rule. At least for partnership, they do not have a separate personality, unless, of course, in partnership it is a limited partnership, right? There's a fourth option, and this is it's a new structure actually in the world. It's not new in the Philippines, called cooperatives. So cooperatives, it could be they are created under created under the Cooperative Code of the Philippines. No, unlike corporation and partnership, they have been regulated with Security Exchange Commission. The cooperative is being regulated by the Cooperative Development Authority. So when you try to register, you go to CDA. And normally when you have a cooperative, it's always for a certain purpose or for a multi-purpose. So the law in CDA allows different types of purposes that allows you to be cooperative. Now, think CDA as more on membership type. In terms of liability, there's still that general rule of separation of personality and asset and liability between owners and the cooperative itself. So yeah, that's the four structures that is there in the Philippines.
So thank you, Attorney Dex. I feel like my accounting 101 has been refreshed from this discussion. So, but why did you choose corporation for your business?
Wow. Okay. So of course, number one is the benefit of having limited liability, right? So there's that protection. So because I am an OFW, technically I'm overseas Filipino and I'm based here, and the business would be managed by individuals in the Philippines, right? I don't want to share the same risk to the people who's going to manage there. So the best way to manage this is to have a corporation, because the corporation itself has a different legal personality. So in terms of taxation, in terms of liability, in terms of asset ownership, in terms of contracts, no? So I don't need to be there to be present to make this work. So I can just, make depending on the transaction, there could be an SPA, a spur board, or a general SPA that can be done. And then while doing that, you're still, being protected with certain risk, right? So for example, would be, of course, we want our businesses to prosper, right? And we wanted to be always in the good side with our creditors. But sometimes in the business, some certain risk occurs, and then the business might have difficulty of paying their liabilities, and then they become insolvent. What corporation structure uh, help for these owners is that the only affected individual is the person, is the corporation only. So unless, of course, there's badges of fraud, and where the court has ruled many times already where they pierce the veil separating the individual, but general rule, it's only the corporation who would be accountable to these creditors. No, unlike when you're doing sole proprietor, um, if you close your business, you become insolvent, your creditors can run after the owners, to the owner's pocket, to the owner's money, to the owner's property. Corporation, this is not the case, because again, there's the bill dividing them, that they are totally separate person, right? So if you cannot pay, the creditors can generally run only after the corporation, and it has no money anymore, then that's it. Unless, of course, by exception of law, by fraud, where you can pierce, that can happen. But general rule, the protection of limited liability is a very good reason. Number 3 is also for branding, of course, and intellectual property. So if you are anticipating that your business would grow and would last long, right? So you would need to build also the brand equity of your business. And the best way to put this all together is in your corporation, because it's easier to, for example, your trademarks also, or your processes, it can be done and managed properly. And number 4, and very important, is succession. It's easier to move ownership of a corporation to another person by just selling the shares. And this is not present normally for sole proprietor and partnership, because when you're a sole proprietor, the business is connected to that person. If that person dies, generally that business dies also. So, right, unlike corporation, even the owners dies, even the owners change, okay, and it can survive many years. Example, San Miguel Corporation, it's been there, could have different owners already. So there is an ease in the succession process. Unlike partnership and sole proprietor, no. Generally, when the owner and the partner dies, the partnership is dissolved, or the sole proprietor is dissolved as well. That's the
So
reason.
take it, Attorney Dex, for all the benefits of establishing a corporation. So we have limited liability, and then succession, and also for branding as we grow the company. So, Sir Chad, do you also have the same business structure for MBNA?
Our
Is it also
business structure is a bit
corporation?
different. Yes,
Ah,
thank you, Attorney Dex, for sharing those information. Actually, we have 3 considerations
mhm,
in creating our own business structure. First is, as what Attorney Dex has mentioned earlier, the liability.
mhm,
So either we will be having limited liability, or we will be having unlimited liability. Second, decision making for structure that we have considered is the exercise of our profession, our professional services that we could exercise based on that certain structure. And the third one is considering on what would be the benefit that we would be having on that certain structure. So the main reason, or the structure that we have considered, is since we wanted to practice as well in the Philippines. That's the reason why we have established a general professional partnership.
Mm.
So it's a GPP because we cannot go for a corporation if we will be practicing our profession, or we will be signing on the audited financial statements. So that's the main thing why we have chose to go with a GPP. And aside from that, I would like to add as well. I'm not sure if this is still in the Philippines. Carlos, please have this one if this is still there. Before, when I was having my business consultant,
Okay. It's a mystery for you to answer, Sir Carlos.
Yes, sir, I would agree with it. I think Sir Chad got during.
yeah, sorry. I was lost.
Yeah, you
Yes,
were.
sir. You were just about to say, sir, during your
The
time.
question. We were
From
waiting for
which
it.
portion? In
I
terms of
think you're saying whether it's while you were business consulting in the Philippines.
okay. Yeah. So while I was consulting some businesses in the Philippines, there was one act that has been established before, which is called as BMBA. If you're familiar with it, Barangay Micro Business
Ah, yes,
Enterprises.
yes.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if it's still
It
there.
is. It's still there. It's still there.
Yes,
Ah,
it's still there,
It
sir.
is.
so
It
if
is.
it's still there, that's actually one of the considerations. So they are exempt for the taxes.
Agree.
They could
Yes.
apply for the exemption. So the only persons who could do this one would be the correct one, the cooperatives, as what Attorney Dex has mentioned, the
Sole
the
trader
natural persons, which is the
sole
sole
proprietor
proprietorships,
and
and then
partnership.
the partnerships as well. So
Correct.
these are the ones that would be benefiting for this kind of tax exemption. So that's the reason why we have chose as well to keep it as GPP. And
Yes, sir.
aside from that, in terms of benefit as well, you see, when we are calculating the taxes that we are going to pay, so we have choose GPP since it will be based on individual taxes. So the bracket would be 250,000 as your annual income. So if that would be the case, if we will not be reaching that much, then we'll go for GPP. But if ever we will be going more than that, and we will be having a maybe 32% or of the taxes, then we go for corporation. If ever we have this certain kind of services or a purpose, then we go for cooperative as well. So it depends on the nature of your business. It depends also on the benefits you will be getting from the exemptions, and it will be based as well on the liabilities. So it's up to you on how you wanted to establish your business. But for us, the reason why we choose GPP, the main reason, primary reason, was actually to practice in the Philippines with our profession. So we wanted to sign in the financial statements.
I
So,
just want to add. Sorry, Jara. Right. So, if actually, so when you are going to choose for practice of profession, partnership is the best. In our case, we were not actually practicing public practice. We are not. So our company is set up as an outsourcing company, right?
Mhm.
So accounting is just one of the things that we outsource. So we don't sign audit, okay? So we just basically take outsourcing work. So that is why our setup is different from Chad, because we do not do public practice. But yes, if you're a profession, like I said earlier, when you're practicing, you would need to do a GPP. Otherwise, you cannot do it, right? And
Correct.
of course, if in the future, for example, we do public practice, so then yes, you need a general partnership set up for this.
Attorney Dex, I just have a question with this.
Yes,
This includes with advocates as well, like for lawyers, just like yourself.
yes. So
Yes.
yes, so
Mhm.
lawyers, the common setup of lawyers are sole proprietor, and partnership.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it.
So thank you, Attorney Dex and Sir Chad. So we have different perspectives here of actually choosing the right business structure. We have your corporation and all the benefits that goes with that, and also general practice partnership or GPP with all the, and it actually just comes down to what is the nature of the business. So there are also, Sir Chad gave the considerations that we should actually looked at for the liability, the benefits, and also the exercise of profession. So, how about you, Sir Carlos? What do you recommend as the right business structure? Do you have something in mind, or maybe just in addition to what these two have said?
Well, I think on my case, it's just really based on based from my experience, it's just really
Mhm.
based on the circumstances an individual has. If they, let's say, multiple people have the capacity to set up a business, then they should go for a corporation because of its benefits, the ones that Attorney Dexter and Sir Chad discussed earlier, especially on the liability side. If they're looking to, or if they're limited with their resources, with their setup, but they would still like to go into business, then they can all go for either sole proprietorship, or there's this with one of our clients recently with attorney, they've been setting up their one-person corporations, whereas individuals, they actually set up their business as corporations. They only have one shareholder, but their liabilities is only tied up to the business. So I guess just to add to what they said, yeah, it's really more on the circumstances of the individuals. I believe recently, because of the again because of the pandemic, there have been spikes of individual businesses that was set up here in the Philippines, especially for sole proprietors, because they saw it as a way for them to earn their livelihood, and at the same time set up their businesses here in the Philippines, and just really expound the notion of advancement in technology.
So thank you, Sir Carlos. So it's actually just based on the individual and their circumstance as well. So now
I
let's
have a
give.
question,
Yes,
if I may.
please.
I just wanted to highlight this one because you have mentioned about one person LLC or one person company. So if ever, as what Attorney Dex had mentioned earlier, if it is a corporation, there is a possibility that you could actually do some succession planning on
Yeah.
transferring the shares. For this one person company or one person corporation, would you be able to add shareholders in the future?
Mhm.
I would answer that. So yes,
Okay,
you can.
done.
Yes, you can. So um, it's a new amendment of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. If I'm not mistaken, 2021 or 2022. It's a very
Around
new amendment,
2021 attorney.
2021, where before the amendment, there is a limitation of number of incorporators, okay, which is five,
Right.
okay,
Correct.
five to maximum of 15. With the new amendment, you enjoy the same benefit of a corporation, but they remove the minimum requirement of five. So you are allowed to set up corporation now as one person, two person, three
Mm,
person, four person. So the only difference is if you are only one person, it becomes OPC.
mm,
If you are not one person, it becomes just the normal corporation. So two person now can do a corporation. Additional benefit in this amendment is that they have removed also the minimum capital authorized capital requirement. No, in school we remember there's a 25
yeah,
25%.
paid in capital.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's gone now, right? So there's no
Okay.
limit already. But of course, when we try to set up the corporation with our clients, we still maintain that as an internal, just a standard for what our clients we need to do. So there's actually this, but under the law, that is not required already. So just to be direct on the succession and other benefit, the answer is yes. In
Uh,
fact, if I were to advise someone to decide whether a sole proprietor or a one person corporation, I would suggest that you do an OPC or one person corporation because you still have full control of the business as a single owner, okay? But you enjoy the protection
limited
benefit of
liability.
the corporation, limited liability, succession planning, taxation is also separated from your
Yeah.
personal, right? So you can draw drawings, and the income of your dividends is less tax compared to when you're a sole proprietor, it's bigger, right? So these are
Yeah.
just benefit. And OPC is also popular right now for purposes of managing wealth. Okay, so there's another way of doing trust method of corporation, but now you can actually manage your property in an OPC method. So if you're owning a lot of properties in the Philippines, you're buying a lot of condos, you have to protect yourself. You have to put all this to the corporation. Okay, you can set it up as an OPC, and we see a trend of this from many OFW right now.
One more question.
Sure.
Because I'm interested actually on the perspective of OPC.
See.
If ever you're an OPC and you wanted to go for an IPO, would it be possible?
So so it's not about the structure for IPO, okay? Because once you go for IPO, meaning you're already inviting people to be
Other
shareholders,
people.
right?
Mm.
And when you're doing that, you're no longer an OPC,
OPC.
right?
Yeah.
And of course, you need to go several requirements from the Security Exchange Commission to
Mm.
allow you to do an IPO. IPO means you have to list your business with the stock exchange, right?
Yes.
And meaning you are selling your shares, part of your shares, a portion of your shares to the public, which is different from a non-listed company where it's only privately owned owners, right? So to answer your question, if you're an OPC, you cannot do IPO, and because now you're increasing authorized capital and then offering your shares to other people.
In that certain case, you have to convert from OPC to a corporation.
Yes,
And
you
then from
can.
the corporation, you
Yes, you
follow the
can.
requirements for the IPO.
The only thing you need to do is just an amendment by adding new
Mm.
shareholders.
Two shares. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just really the definition, the direct definition, Sir Chad.
Yeah.
OPC,
Mm.
just one person corporation. Once you've
Mm.
invited other shareholders, you're no longer an IPC because it's just no longer one. There are other shareholders already.
In
Got
fact,
it.
a corporation with an OPC compared to two or more person corporation, the word
Mm.
OPC will be attached to your corporation if you are only one person. But if you are multiple person, then it will no longer be OPC. It will be incorporated or corporation already. That's the difference. Again, it's just the nomenclature separating the nature of the structure of a corporation where there is only one person. Now, I want, if you allow me to expand, why is this? What's the spirit of the law? Why it is emphasized that in the name of the corporation, it would be Dexter OPC, not incorporated. One, this is to distinguish that there is one owner already. Why? Because a single owner creates a possible issue on the creditor, right? So on the creditor side. So if, for example, is this person capable of putting more money if I enter business with him? That's one, right? Number two, just to give the public that if something happened in the corporation, there is that one person that, there is no board.
Mm.
There's no board of directors managing. So in the corporation law, the board of director is the ultimate managers, the manager who manage the business affairs, right? Of course, they appoint the CEO and that. Unlike in the movies, we think CEO and we're with the powerful. No, it's the board of directors, the powerful in the corporation. In the OPC, you don't have the board. So you have only one person. So that's why when you see an OPC, there's only one person making this decision. Number two, the stringent requirement when you are applying an OPC. There's a unique requirement in OPC that is not in other requirement and incorporation, where you have to select, when you're incorporating, you have to ask yourself who is your treasurer, right?
Mm.
You need to appoint another treasurer that is not the owner, but must be a resident in the Philippines. That's a unique, although it's there in the other, but that requirement exists. And sometimes for OFW, when they're thinking of this is difficult. So what they do is the husband is the OPC, and then they have the wife that is in the Philippines would be their treasurer. Or they have a family member who would do a treasurer. Once you do that, then you can do OPC. So yeah.
But would it be having the liability as well for the
Yes.
treasurer?
Yes. No. Treasurer, no. Because treasurer under the law does not need to be a director or director, right? It's not. It's
Mm.
necessary.
Maybe you're referring to the role, sir, of the treasurer, because it would still hold the same, but the liabilities, the extent of the liability of the officer position is different, but the function should still be there as the treasurer.
And just to gap the issue of possible issue of debt, right? So there's I need to verify this, but as far as I can remember, when you try to apply, you need a substitute. You have to nominate a substitute apart
Mm.
from your name for in case in debt there's a substitute for you. Because again, the what it means is when you have a corporation on OPC, they're still separate persons. So generally in corporation law, the shareholder when they die or deceased, the corporation exists. So what happened with the substitute? Initially, the substitute would take over on that.
Got it. Got it.
Again, that is still yet to be tested. No, this is very new.
Mm. Got it. The reason why I highlighted this one is because there might be a possibility that an OFW would want to establish a business in the Philippines. At the same time, he or she might be wanting to have it as a one-person company, and then thereafter they would go for an IPO, or thereafter they would go for inviting some investors for the company and making it as a corporation. So yes, it is
It is
possible.
possible. Yes, it is possible.
Got it.
But I'll tell you the practicality of this. No,
Mm.
in reality, the way when you're going to do a corporation, an OPC, for example, the journey of completing the process is long because when you're doing corporation, you start with first with Security Exchange Commission, and in our experience with Gabe, right, it takes some time to get all this done. Sometimes back and forth, and once that's done, you go now to the LGU. That's another process. Then to the
This is
BIR,
correct.
the other process, and then the SSS pag-ipapilit and all this regulatory requirement. Now, because of this particular journey, the sole proprietor creates also a unique advantage because the sole proprietor, when their business, they're thinking only that I'm doing my business only locally, then it's easier for them to just register initially with DTI, get the name, and then go to the
Yeah.
to the city hall or municipal hall, and that's
Mm.
practical for many of the businesses. However, again, just be wary of that, other disadvantage. But it doesn't mean that you cannot transition from a sole proprietor to a corporation if that's really the plan eventually. Because what you need to do if you want to transition, you just go back to your LGU, local government unit, city hall, municipal hall. Just retire your business completely, create the corporation, go another set of LGU requirements under a new business setup. But then you can
Mm.
still carry the name of the brand in your business.
But that would be affecting the establishment date of your company then.
That's correct. It will. Because again, the corporation will be a new person. Then
Mm.
his birth would arise actually at the time of its incorporation date.
Got it. Ms. Jara.
Okay. That was a very interesting
That's
topic.
a
I was like
lengthy
very keen to
discussion.
listen. And I was about to ask like what are the minimum requirements for this OPC because like maybe I want to actually when you were just talking about all of this, I was like, okay, I can do it now. So it's just the minimum requirement, like the unique treasurer, and you have to nominate a substitute, and everything else is like the same with just having to
Corporation.
set up as a
Set
corporation.
up the
That's how
business.
simple
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, okay.
The requirements are
Okay,
very
let's do
black and
it.
white. Once you get the list, we just have to comply.
Mhm.
Then go through all the usual steps in setting up the business.
And just to add, um, the requirement for LGU, the requirement for BIR, the requirement for SSS, Pag-ibig PhilHealth are all the same across structure.
Mhm.
Right? It's just different from how you started before you start with LGU.
Yeah.
Right? For a sole proprietor, you start with DTI. For partnership and corporation, you start with Security Exchange Commission. For cooperative, you start with CDA. After that is done, you go to LGU, BIR, SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth.
Yeah, actually, that's the next topic. So we have the list of all the requirements that we need to actually
Nice.
go through the registration.
So
Yeah, so
kindly
this is
explain
the
again,
nitty-gritty,
attorney.
very advanced. So because now that we have a lot of opportunities now in the Philippines, we wanted to invest, set up a business. We have a sense of business structure that we want our business to be set up into. So let's get into the process, the registration process, the legal requirements. So maybe we can start with what Attorney Dexter has said about the DTI for sole proprietorship. So how do you actually register a name
Okay.
with
Yeah.
DTI?
Okay. So it's very simple actually. So for example, today, for some reason, you wake up in the morning and said, I need to start a business in the Philippines, right? So what you need to do is to go first to DTI. Just log into DTI first. Okay? Yes, DTI online. So you go online to DTI, select the name of the business. Okay? So there's a process in DTI web portal. There's a process. You don't need to go to the DTI office, by the way, huh? It's DTI is already on the website. You can do this. So there's a process of selecting the business on different category, different activities, until finally, to cut that process short, you get the name. You just have to select whether this name is for barangay, is it for city, regional, or national. Now, depending what you choose and for what is your coverage of this business, the fee would be different. Okay, so of course, when you select national, you can extend a branch of your sole proprietor business to another location. If it is city, it's only within the city, right? So that's one. So get your name first with DTI of the business. Once you get there, you go now to the local government. You just go to the licensing section and ask for a list of requirements. LGUs have different requirements. Okay, so I cannot mount them one by one. But very important is they need, of course, DTI, and then they need also, of course, your if you are leasing or your location, you need to approval from the city engineering, the health office. All this you have to go through, even for NBI clearance. Oh no, sorry, police clearance. Okay, so you have to go all this. Once that's approved from the LGO, you can now start with the BIR, certificate of registration. So Gabe can go to the detail on the BIR side, but once you registered with BIR on that specific revenue district, the next step, once you have the COR, you now need to register with SSS office, Pag-ibig office, PhilHealth office. Now, once you have all this, you're ready to go. That's for sole proprietor. It's very easy.
Yeah, that looks so simple and easy. So I'll just go into DTI right now and do it. But just one question about it. Like, what if at first, I wanted to have just like a city or like a regional, and then afterwards, I want to change and also open up business into an international, into a national level.
Okay.
Would I just? It's easy to just change it into the online system, or how do we actually change that, or can we actually change that?
I think for that, you just need to visit the DTI office. Okay, and then ask for the amendment. Yeah. Okay.
Amendment. Okay, and now let's talk about partnerships and corporations. So how do we go about registering
Good. Tell
the
us the story on
business?
this.
Actually, our process is pretty simple. It's almost the same process actually. So we started first with the registration with security exchange. So that's the first thing. Then thereafter, once we have this, it's a bit different with Attorney Dex. Once we have this, we have applied for the certificate of registration from the BIR. Then thereafter, we have complied with the requirements of the LGU. So
I
that's how the process that we do have.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple actually
and it
in the process, but in complying the requirements, it's actually a bit tedious.
yeah.
So I'll tell you the process might be very simple, but the compliances with regards to the requirements might need to go with someone who is actually specialized with it.
Yeah. And I guess just to add on what you've discussed, Sir Chad, especially on the SEC side, just to confirm, I believe they're also trying to transition all of their transactions online.
Yes, I
Yes.
Mm,
experienced that
Yeah.
already. I experienced that
SEC,
already.
BIR, DTI, every one of the government offices are trying to transition all of their registration processes online. Well, not necessarily just registration, but for with regards to our topic, registration processes,
Correct.
all are being tried to be done now online.
mhm. And I think that's a better way to actually register businesses. It's easy because as we know in the Philippines, when you go to government, um, the government, it's actually there's a lot of queue, there's a lot of time to
Yeah.
actually line up and wait for your turn.
Mm,
So doing it online is very efficient these
mm.
days. And how about for barangay clearance and mayor's permit? Is it necessary for us
Yes,
to
yes.
register?
For
So
us
the
also.
barangay
Yes.
clearance is part of your local government requirement. So I
Mm,
mentioned already, you need approval also of the fire department to check your location, the health. One of the requirement is also your barangay clearance. So you need a CTC, resident certificate, and then clearance from the barangay saying that you are a resident in this particular location. Yeah,
Basically, most of these requirements is actually required for you to have the business permit.
yeah.
okay. So these two are necessary and really required for us to actually go
The,
into
the
the registration.
LGU registration is actually the business permit. That is the
Mm,
that I'm talking about. Yeah.
okay, now we get it. And
I
how
guess
about registering the
yeah.
employees into the SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig? What's the scope of this?
So if you don't mind answering this, under the law, for all SSS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth law, actually the rule is that once you open the business, it's mandatory for you to open the registration. Otherwise, you will be subject to penalty. And unfortunately, this part of the compliance is, it's not seen to be important for many of the businesses. But actually, it's required. Even if you don't have an employee, it's important that you register as a company, and then it's easier for you to get into this. Of course, our intention is to be legally compliant, right, from start. And this is what I encourage everybody. You want to
Yeah.
do your business right at the beginning. I understand there's certain cost factor, but when you're building a business, you want to start it right, and including compliance with this is pag-ibig. So at the moment that you are done with your COR, you're done with your SEC or business permit, you need to register immediately for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think after this, we need to also register for our tax identification number and to
Yes.
BIR.
That's for the
Yes.
COR, Certificate
That's
of
the COR
Registration.
already.
Registration.
When you're going to the BIR,
Yeah.
your registration called certificate of registration. So what happens is that you'll be given a 9-digit number. Okay, 9-digit number. And if you create now separate branches or different operations in different places
Zero
or
zero one.
different RD, they will give you an extension of 3 additional numbers to become 12 numbers. It becomes 001, 002. But it all emanates from one general 9 TIN number.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
then.
I think
Hearing
one
from,
thing that I'd like to highlight. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
yes,
I
Go
please.
ahead.
there's
Go ahead.
just one thing that I'd really like to highlight, especially with what I've come to experience with new businesses, is that you have to register with each and every one of these offices because their compliance are their own. There are
Yes.
certain guidelines that you have to follow with SEC. There are certain guidelines you have to follow with DTI, with the LGU, and your BIR. Some companies or corporations often think that since they've registered their business with SEC and
It's
then
well and
their
good.
registration with other officers are just to follow, they begin to operate, but they open an area, a gray area for them for BIR review. So that's
Yes.
one of the things that I really like to highlight. In starting up your business, you have to take each and every one of these offices as their own registration and own compliances.
I have a question with that. I see, good thing that you have put that one into discussion. Actually, I'm not sure if it's still there. They have mentioned before that you still have 3 months before you do the registration. is still
Registration
applicable
of
in the
what?
Philippines.
What
Like,
registration?
let's say, for example, you could do business for a period of 3 months, and then after that, you could go and apply for your business. Because actually, this period would be utilized for just a trial period. Would it be possible, or you have to comply all of these registration before you do or conduct your business?
Okay. I think the right answer would be before you start issuing your first invoice, okay, your first revenue, complete at least the BIR. Okay, complete at least the BIR. Of course, that's the.
which
I
is
think
often attorney the last
it
the last
often that is the
registration that
last
we need to
consideration.
have.
So if
Yeah.
you finish everything in 1 month, yes, if you have a COR already, you would know if you have a certificate of registration because they will give you now an authority to print the invoice, or they call it invoice now before OR, right? Official receipt.
Mm.
So
So I
once
think
like that, you can operate already. Sorry, I'm not familiar with the 3 months.
yeah.
I'm not sure, Gabe.
To directly address your questions, Richard, we're not familiar with the concept of 3 month operations prior to
Mm.
registration, but we as the we sometimes advise really just we just follow what mandated in BIR, that before you operate your business, you have to ensure that you're registered, that your business is registered.
Got it, got it. I'm not sure from which regulations I have seen this. I either 3 months or 30 days that I have seen that you could conduct business, and after that, you have to comply with these requirements. I'm not sure though.
Mm.
But anyway, it's really advisable for you to start with whatever is compliant, rather than doing it as a trial and error. You do directly register if you have a business. Before you do conduct business, you have to register it from start.
So thank you all for the detailed explanation for the whole legal requirements. So we have business, the barangay clearance and mayor's permit that is required, and also the registration process from DTI, SEC, and BIR, of course. And now that we have that, I hope that everyone took notes for this part because it's really a process.
Jara, sorry. Just
Yes.
to add before moving to another topic, I just wanted to emphasize, effective February of this year, when you are going to set up a corporation, there is what we call, I think, I forgot if it's the right name, one stop, one stop, something like that. So what it does, and I tried this last July when I was registering with another client, is you have to fill up the form in the Security Exchange Commission portal already. Unlike before, you have to write it down in paper, right?
Mhm.
Now, there is a process flow inside. It's like DTI now, right? Where in one day, you would be able to generate a draft articles of incorporation and bylaws. You just print it out from the system, and then this is the paper that you will submit to Security Exchange, it is SEC. Before, no, you have to fill it out, by computer and Word file. Now, no more. So you go through this one stop. I forgot this portal. It's what it's called. Its name. You just go to the SEC, and then from selecting the name of the corporation, the payment of the reservation of the name, the filling up of the details of your incorporators, the authorized capital detail, the addresses of your incorporators, drafting your incorporation papers, and then your bylaws also, drafting of your bylaws, it's all in one platform already, right? So this is where I was afraid, like when I saw this, I said, oh my God, the consultants are gone. It's automated already, but of course they need the consultant to guide them which one is the right business activity for them, the
Mm.
structure. Yeah, so they still need that, I believe so. But when I saw this, it's super efficient. Like if you have all the information, that I think the most difficult part in the corporation process is the TIN, tax identification number. So if you want to bring owners as shareholders to your company in your corporation, make sure they have a TIN. Otherwise, this is the last draw of difficulty that you're going, and then it will. And assuming you have all this, 1 hour you're finished. You have already a draft. You just need to send to the office of AC, you start your process already.
For
That's
the
how.
bylaws attorney, it should be notarized, right?
Yeah, of course. So once you print it, you have to notarize it, signed by all the owners,
Mhm.
because you have to subscribe to that, right? So all
Mhm.
owners must appear in person with the notary public, and the notary public will subscribe to it, notarizing, and then once that's done, you submit this paper to the Security Exchange. So it shortened the process, no? It shortened, and they make it simpler, and this is what I admired with SEC for this wonderful update they're done, making it easier to open a corporation actually.
It's great to hear.
And I know our topic is on setting up businesses, but our government offices has even made it easier for compliances, report submissions.
So it's actually a really good advantage for everyone who is actually thinking of starting a business that everything is automated now, because we just wanted to do everything online, and we don't need the hassle of just going here and there and filling out the forms. So I think this is a really good update for both DTI and SEC. So thank you all for sharing that update, Attorney Dex, actually, and all the other insights for this. Now let's talk about restrictions on foreign ownership in certain industries and the options available for foreign investors. So the question is, are there any restriction on foreign ownership in certain industries in the Philippines? And which industries are actually affected by this?
You
For
So
want
us
would
in the
Carlos?
profession, I'll start from my end.
Yeah, you start. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Specifically for us in our profession, I don't think that unless there is actually a reciprocal agreement between the organizations or the government bodies that is handling, or the PRC that is handling the professionals, I don't think that um those other nationalities would be able to practice in the Philippines for professionals,
so it's not possible for them.
unless there is an reciprocal agreement. That, for example, if ever you're a professional in the Philippines, you could also practice in the other country, on their country. So vice versa, there could be a possibility. But if there is no reciprocal agreement, then they cannot do that.
Mm.
So I don't know, maybe you can expound on this, Carlos, but in the Philippines, this is what we call negative list. Okay. So negative list, these are lists of industries where there are restrictions actually. So I would tell you, for example, if you want to set up a mining company, so there would be restrictions on that. If you're setting up oil and gas, there will be restriction on that. We have to confirm on this list, by the way. Um, Mass media, you would require to set up for that. If it involves about real estate, there's a restriction for that as well. Right. So, are you familiar with the negative list, Carlos? Or what are other negative lists?
I'm familiar attorney with the list, but as to the entities or industries included, not specific.
Hmm.
Okay,
But
I'll tell
is
you.
there any or is there any website that we could check, or from SEC that we could check that these are the industries that is not allowed for any other nationalities?
So actually, there is. You can quickly search foreign
Yes,
ownership
attorney.
limitations, no? Or you say negative list. So many of them are because of constitutional. So there are
Right.
two types of negative list. One are these are industries that are strictly mandated by our constitution itself to be limited, right? So like for example, real estate, about what other types, like for example mining, for example. So these are from the corporation. But there are also by special law that limit certain uh, uh, businesses um, that are negative list. So what does it mean being negative list? The restriction could be number one would be the restriction as to the ownership and control of Filipino, right? So for example, and majority of them is actually 60-40, right? So but if you're doing only a very specific type of business that are general, let's say trading, for example, or services, right? So you will have small, you would have you have a freedom to 100% owned, but for certain like public facilities companies, for example, that use of natural resources, education. I'm looking at the list right now, actually.
Mm.
Culture and
Actually, I
mining.
just Googled it and it's
You
right
can see
there.
it in Google. It's there. No? So just type Philippine negative list for corporation registration. You can see it.
I guess um, I'd like to address what Sir Chad said earlier and what Attorney Dexter saying right now, sir. I think earlier Sir Chad mentioned the limitation of foreign professionals practicing their profession here in their country. I think one way of looking at it is how other countries also limit other nationalities practicing their
Yeah,
profession.
correct.
Because, for example, me as a CPA, if I would like to practice accounting in, let's say, the US, I need
Mm.
to have my own CPA licensure in the US. It's a way of our country protecting professionals here in our country. That for you to practice your license, your profession here, you need to undergo or you need to acquire the specific license for that specific profession because our standards may differ from other countries. So that's
That's
one way of
absolutely
looking
correct.
at it. And then to add to what Attorney Dexter said, especially for the negative list, um, in general, our usual general point of view or general rule is that businesses within the Philippines should be Filipino owned because it is for the benefit of Filipinos. But that does not mean that we do not invite any foreign investors or entities or individuals here in the Philippines because with what attorney said in the negative list, which you can just directly search in Google or whatever search engine, the law is very black and white. You're limited as to the nature of company that you can set up here in the Philippines, or you're limited as to the share, specific share or rate or percentage of ownership of a foreigner against a Filipino. So majority really should be Filipino owned because it is for the benefit of Filipinos.
Okay, thank you, Sir Carlos, for that. And as to the foreign investors, what are the available options for them actually if they wanted to invest in Philippines as well? And what are like the special visas like special investor resident visa that we actually offer in the Philippines?
So there's a move from our government to have this ease of business in the Philippines. No, so they put this in all in package actually, but again, there's parts on that question. One would be what would be your legal structure when you would want to set up in the business, and the second part is how do you get the visas or the immigration status of of the owners, right? So based on our experience, and we can only tell you that is majority of our owners are still overseas. So they are not, for example, for our clients that are headquarters, let's say from Singapore and
Mm.
Malaysia, the owners are actually in the Philippines, but they have appointed someone in the Philippines to do the general power of administration, right? So if these owners comes to the Philippines, they would just get the required visa, and it's easier for them to get the visa because they are owners of the corporation compared to just individual aliens who just come. So there's that advantage. Okay, so there is that less stringent requirement for for owners. So I think we have to approach this in two separate parts. The second part of the immigration is not really very difficult, and I assure you that it's not. I think it's getting the first thing done, which is setting up your corporation, right? And again, when you're setting, if you're a foreign entity, if it's just an headquarter company, that should not be an issue. But if it is you're doing specific business, you have to make sure that whether your nature of your industry is in a negative list or not. Because if you are in a negative list, then you have to comply the ownership and control requirement. I'll give you an example. If you are a foreigner and you want to own real estate in the Philippines, under the Constitution, foreigners cannot 100% own real estate, right? Land. So what they do, they incorporate an OPC, okay? They incorporate an OPC, and then or a corporation where sorry, not OPC because you need 100 you need other owners on that, right? So you need your ownership in the corporation must only be 40%, and then you have a Filipino counterpart so that the corporation can actually own real estate. That's just an example. Or the hot topic right now, Pogo, for example, Pogo for gambling, right? So the restriction is that 40% also applies to them. So they need a counterpart to have a Filipino owner for the 60%.
So thank you, Attorney Dex, for that detailed also discussion on that. And how about those benefits that we can offer for foreign investors, like the export processing zones or special economic zones? How does it benefit them?
Okay, I will answer that also. Okay, so that is one of the
Go
best.
ahead.
I'll go ahead. Okay, that is one of the best offerings that a country can do for foreign investors, right? We start with free zones, basically. The same here in UAE. That allows, because the idea of 100% ownership is there, right? So when you are a free zone, there's certain ownership requirement that you still be covering the negative list or positive list. But normally, the companies in the free zone are companies that are not in the negative list. Okay? So these are normally service sector, these are in manufacturing, these are in service, right? I think I said that already. So the decision as to the structure is one thing. Okay, so you still have to register in corporation. So, but then once you get to register, the decision whether to be situated in a free zone or not, that's a next decision for you to do. Because if you are located in a free zone company, like Cavite Free Zone or in Laguna or in Cebu, for example, you enjoy certain tax benefit. Okay, so the tax benefit would be tax holidays, for example, for 5 years, you do not pay this tax, okay? And you have a certain industrial area that's located already for you that is attractive for, number one, very close to your logistics requirements. It's near the port or strategically located in an area where it allows good availability of manpower, which is a big headache in many of these foreign companies when they go, right? Now, you differentiate in UAE. In UAE, you have to decide first whether you want to be a free zone or not. If you decide to be a free zone, you register to the free zone, everything is there, right? You're regulated with the mandate of that free zone. In the Philippines, no. Whether you're a free zone or not, located, it's another matter. The legal structure, the approach would still be the same. It's just a question where you want to locate. So, for example, we are an outsourcing company. We can decide that I can locate my office in a building where it's called a, they call it, I forgot
PEZA?
the
Philippine Economic Zone or no?
PICPA accredited building. This is where many of the call centers are. They're in the middle of the city. It's just one building, but that building is a PISA accredited building. Then therefore you ruled with the rules of the free zone, and then you get extra benefit. So for example, the tax holidays and other things. Maybe Carlos, you can expound.
Just to add, attorney, just to add with what you've mentioned, attorney, I've handled my fair share of PESA clients before, and it's really the real benefits really is more on the taxation side. You've mentioned, attorney, that they sometimes enjoy a benefit of tax holidays depending on their registration. Some PESA some, if not all, really PESA registered entities are not subjected to their local taxes anymore. They're exempt from their local taxes.
Yes.
And for those PESA registered entities with no tax holiday due to, let's say, expiration or non-registration, they enjoy a different tax regime or tax rate that is really more beneficial to their operations. So instead of going directly to the income, to the corporate income tax, they have a separate gross profit rate tax that is beneficial really to their operations. And sometimes this PESA registration for some entities are flexible in a way that they may have transactions that are subject to the regular corporate income tax, but if some transactions or operations are in line with PESA, with their PESA registration, then they can just segregate those activities, and those activities are subject to the special rate instead of the normal corporate income tax rate. Yeah, so I think just one thing to take note is that PESA is a different registration again
Yes.
from the SEC, or DTI that we've mentioned earlier.
So that's another option.
Yes.
Yes.
After you register, unlike in UAE, you have to do that together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there it's different. You structure first, and then you register for PISA, so that you get the, and then you locate yourself in the PEZA location.
So thank you. And I think for our foreign investors who are actually thinking of setting up a
Yeah.
business in the Philippines, this is a really good benefit for them, which is the main thing, the taxes, the taxation. They're exempt from the local taxes if they're registered with this PEZA. And
I
now
think
that we're
I'm
talking about
sorry,
taxes,
Jar. I'm
yes,
sorry.
please.
I think other than I forgot to mention, other than peso attorney, I think there's also the BOI registration.
Yeah.
Board of
Board of
investment. That's
Investment.
also
Yeah.
another. That's also
Another.
another additional. Yes, you're correct. Board of investment.
Mm,
So if you register also in the Board of Investment Act, right? BOI. There's also certain what you call this, benefit also, right? So the difference of this is that you don't need to be located in an PISA
visa.
location. You can
Yeah.
be outside, but this approach is morely on industrial basis.
Industry. Yeah.
And your application, not everybody, by the way, qualifies for this, right? So you have to apply to the board that you become a BOI, and then certain, like the same case, there will be tax holidays on this, local taxes, and the national taxes also. They give you holidays. When I say tax holidays, meaning they give you a moratorium that you are not going to pay taxes on. Generally, I know is 5 years, right? Generally, that's what I
Yeah.
know. And after that, there's a slow movement of the tax benefit that tax that you schedule that you will pay.
And I guess I'd like to really highlight in relation to in relation to the question for foreign investors, why PESA is really for you guys is because it may be your innovation or the service or type of setup that you're trying to put into the Philippines. If you're really bringing a new product, process, or overall something beneficial or new into the Philippines, this is something that's really beneficial to the Philippines, and that's why they offer the PESA registration to these kinds of scenarios.
I do have a question with this. PESA registered companies should be owned by other nationalities, or would a Filipino owned company register to PESA? Would it be
Okay, I'll
possible?
answer that question. Number one, no pizza company will be allowed to locate unless you have a legal structure registered in the Philippines,
Mm.
and this is the corporation. So, like I said, it's a separate requirement. So, to answer your question, basically a domestic corporation. That's the answer. Question is, who are the owners of the domestic corporation? It will depends now. Maybe 60% Filipino, 40%
How
local.
about
So,
if it is 100% Filipino? Would it be still possible to be a PISA registered company?
um, I haven't encountered. I'm not sure if that is the
Mm.
case. What I know, it is always with, because normally the these particular companies would have, yeah, there is actually, there is so, particularly for local support services, like call centers, right?
Mm.
So yeah, it's possible, not the big free zone. In my example would be, they are located in the PISA accredited building, so yeah.
I think maybe one thing that we should look into or look at when we mention PESA, it's more of what really business are you trying to put up that is within the scopes of PESA's mission or goal. Really, it is really more of innovation,
Mm.
a new type of innovation or improvement that you're introducing here in the Philippines.
So thank you, Sir
Got it.
Carlos, Dex, and Sir Chad. I think it's attractive for other like foreign nationals to actually look into what they can bring into the Philippines if they actually want to have something set up, a business there. And now that we're on the topic of taxes, let's go into like the overview of the Philippine tax system, particularly for all of these businesses. So, what is the current corporate income tax and how do they affect the business? So let's start with the corporation, of course, Attorney Dex.
Hey,
How did,
Or
okay, I think I'll give it to Carlos to give us all.
okay,
okay,
Sir
just
Carlos.
to give
I
everyone
think
a
the
setting of
best person will be Carlos for this.
Okay,
So
tax
I
expert
know
then.
one of the questions really that pops up in business owners' minds are what are the kind of taxes that I have to pay, and this can be separated or looked at in different ways. One of the things that we should look at it is the type of tax is either is it national or local taxes, because for local taxes these are usually mandated within your local government unit. Could be your real estate taxes, some of those insurance taxes that you might have for your business. So this would differ based on, of course, the LGU that where you're located at. But one of the bigger question is the national taxes that each I wouldn't limit it to corporation. Let's just say each business should look at, because once you fully registered your business, you've finished your registration with BIR, our tax governing body here in the Philippines. They will issue you your certificate of registration, or what we often call your BIR 2303. And within this certificate are all the taxes that you have to comply with. So if you're asking what kind of taxes you have to comply with, just look at your certificate of registration, and all of those should be enumerated within that form.
Okay, that's
Just to add
So,
also, okay.
yes, po, attorney.
Yeah. So for sole proprietor, your tax regime will be individual tax
Right.
regime, right? Individual. So you follow the individual
Tax
tax
bracket.
regime where it has the graduated schedule, right? More than 200,000, less than 200. Generally, you don't pay tax, but more than that in a year, you'll have to pay, right? Now,
Yes.
there are also certain options that you can do as a small business. One is you can apply to micro micro business, right? The barangay micro business,
Yeah,
where
BPD.
allows you to be exempt also on this compliance. Not only for taxes, by the way, also for SSS, Pag-ibig PhilHealth. No, what and also the minimum wage law, by the way,
Yeah.
that allows that certain benefit. So I suggest when you're a sole proprietor, the the next road for you after you've done all the registration, go to the micro business, no? Is it the barangay micro business
Barangay
road?
Micro Business Enterprises.
Yes, yeah, correct. MBE, right? And so there's if you are not an MBE, you know, you have not applied for MBE, you go for the normal one where you pay the normal taxes for individuals because the business, again, like I said, for sole proprietor is attached to you to the owner.
The
So
owner.
what is the income of the business is the income of the owner. So your personal income plus the business income, this is how you file one return altogether, right? Of course, you have to comply the documents on that. Now, there's also an option of 8%, optional tax, right? Carlos, right? The 8%.
I think you're referring, attorney, to the percentage tax
The
already.
percentage tax, yes. So there are certain taxes. So I would go now into detail. So you have what number one would be the income tax. The income tax is what you pay net profit of your business. Number two, there are indirect taxes related to your sales. There are two kinds. One, the VAT and the percentage tax. Okay. Now, if your revenue is less than 3 million in a year, correct me if I'm wrong, Carlos, right? 3 million in a year,
750,000, attorney.
then 750,000 for VAT.
Yes, attorney.
For VAT, you will no. If you don't reach that threshold, you will do
Oh, wait. I
percentage
think
tax
that's
of 2%.
percentage. Ah, yes, attorney.
2%. 3 million, right? Is it correct? 3
3
million.
million,
Yes,
3 million.
attorney.
3
3
million.
million.
So
The
below 3 million,
750,000 was
you will
percentage.
you will pay the percentage tax. You will pay percentage tax. Okay? If not, then you would be VAT, which is 12% of your goods, right? So these are example of tax in the national taxes that you will pay as a sole proprietor. The same with partnership. The same. The difference is that Partnership does not pay the tax. They pay the tax to the partners itself. Same approach, individual, VAT, and percentage tax. Corporation is totally different because corporation has a separate regime. You will pay flat corporate tax. I think it's 35 right now, or 30%, 32.
That's different now, attorney.
25?
It's either 25 or 20% already. If you're
Yeah,
referring to corporate income
right?
tax,
So 25%
or
straight
20, attorney.
Or 20?
or 20%.
How would you
Yeah.
be able to
There
get
are
80%?
considerations. Okay,
Depends,
so
depends, depends.
Okay.
I guess just to expound maybe, attorney, on my point of view, um the first question I always ask is, are you subject to tax? Tax in general. And the general answer is always yes, except. So I think that's an accountant's way of thinking. There's a general rule and there will always be exceptions. Are you subject to tax? The answer is yes, except if you have a tax holiday, tax certificate that exempts you from some these forms of taxes. And then the next thing that I look at is, this is coming personally on my point of view, is then I look at the different types of taxes. So I try to group them into income tax, taxes you earn from your operations, percentage tax, another form of tax that you can earn from your operations if you're not looking into income tax. You have your value added tax, the one that attorney mentioned earlier. It's either your VAT or non-VAT. Fourth is your withholding taxes, which is um, I would say one of the more complicated form of taxes here in the Philippines. And then the fifth one are all others. And
The
the
final
others
taxes.
are really just really a broad it's a broad scope of taxes. You can ask yourself, so what's included in the others? Well, usually if you go about your day-to-day operations, you can always see the different taxes in those four mentioned. If you have a unique um, transaction within your business, then maybe you look into the other taxes. You ask yourself, this unique transaction, if it's not subjected or part of the other four taxes, let me look into it if it is subject to tax. So that's my way of looking into the different types of taxes here in the Philippines.
I have another way as well. I'm not sure which way is applicable with you, but from my perspective, if you're doing business, there's only two taxes that you're going to pay: transactional taxes or business taxes. When you do the transaction, you have to ask what kind of transaction, whether it would be a transfer transaction. So if it is a transfer transaction, then transfer taxes will be applicable for you. Transfer taxes, whether it would be OPT or VAT. Then you go for business taxes. When you're conducting business, as what Carlos had mentioned, it's up to you whether you're exempt for taxes or whatever would be the structure of your business, and then the exemptions that you do have. Then you check which one is applicable for me on my net profit, my business taxes. So I'll pay for maybe 25%, or I'll go with graduated computation of income taxes, or I'll go with the corporation of 20% or 25%. I'm not sure with the percentage though right now. There's a lot of changes from train 1 to train 2. I think last time I have been involved with train 1 only, so train 2 I'm not sure. So that's my perspective. So if you do business, two taxes only: transactional taxes or business taxes. On transactional taxes, you could also do some withholding as well. So that's my perspective only.
Mm.
So I think even if you do have different perspective, it still comes into one. So we
Mm.
still have all those taxes included in business and transactional.
Yeah.
And
Because
that's
Yeah.
if
very informative.
because if you're really trying to answer the question is what are the taxes that you're
Wala.
supposed to pay, it's a black and white list. But it's the
Mhm.
hard part is determining what are the
Good.
taxes that
Correct.
you're supposed to
You're
pay.
liable.
The taxes are there, but which one do I pay?
Mhm.
It's yeah, because it's either you're subjected to one, two, three, you're subjected to one, but you're not subjected to two because of
Mhm.
one. You can either change 1 to 2 or 2 to 1. Those there are
Correct.
different things that you really have to consider when you're filing or complying with your taxes here in the Philippines.
To be safe, particularly for new businesses, so that you will not be confused. Like Carlos said, look at your certificate of registration from BIR, because the list, your certificate of registration mention the type of tax compliance that you need to perform. Nothing outside of that, as far as BIR or Bureau of Internal Revenue is concerned. You don't know that you pay. It's in the COR. That's the safest. You do not double guess, because by the time you register with BIR, you have submitted your requirements. They would already have a protocol on what type of taxes you do. I think the only question is just, for example, are you a corporation? Of course, corporation will follow. If you are not a corporation, then they follow the individual taxation, right? And then in terms of indirect taxes, do you decide whether percentage and VAT? That's it. The
Yeah.
BAR will tell you whether you're paying VAT or not, percentage tax or not, individual or corporate. Simple.
Correct.
Okay. So the
And I
answer
think
is just in the BIR certificate.
Yes, it's in the BIR certificate. That's it.
Check your
if I
COR.
were to add, I guess another thing that businesses should look out for is that sometimes there are certain types of taxes that are included in your certificate as a general. Let's say you run a sole proprietorship, or let's say a business, and one of the taxes there indicated is for you to file your withholding taxes for employee compensation or payroll. But you, as an
Don't
individual,
have
do
any
not have
clue.
employees
You're not
yet.
employee. So
Does
you don't
that
need to explain.
exclude you from filing the following? And the answer is no. Whatever taxes, types of taxes are indicated in your COR, it is always best to file for the following. If it is not applicable in a way
Here.
that you don't have any employees, that just means that there are no values to be indicated in the return. That's what
But you
we
have to
usually
file.
term as zero filing.
Yeah.
You include all the information, but in terms of the values, other details is just zero.
Basically, the same
Yeah.
compliance in UAE. If you
Mm.
have no
Correct.
numbers, you still have to file a zero
File.
return.
And I have a question with this. There's actually one scenario that we have experienced from one of my
Oh yeah.
friends who had established a business in the Philippines, and then suddenly he went abroad, and the business was closed actually, but they did not close it in the right way.
With BIR. Yeah,
And
Yes.
they
that's a
checked
very
this should be one of the things that should be considered by the those who are actually doing business in the Philippines, or who
Yeah.
wanted to do business in the Philippines.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
you want to start a business and you don't like to continue the business, close it properly as well, because there will be a lot of fines that will be provided with you.
yeah. I
Same
think
thing that has been experienced by my friend.
that's a very good question, Sir Chad, because I was going to add another thing, which is, or a question which is often raised is, when do you actually pay your taxes? So it's not, the question is not addressed or targeted to the deadline, quote unquote, but it's more of when do you start and when do you actually stop filing your BIR returns. So usually we tell you that once your CRR or 2303 certificate is issued, that's when you should start looking into filing your taxes. So if it was issued by February, then it's assumed that you have filing for February returns. And then as to when you stop filing, it's really more of when you've closed it out with BIR. It's not
Yeah.
when you just closed your business, you're no longer operational, because
Yeah.
BIR would see you as a dormant or inactive company. But some dormant or inactive companies still file for their returns because
Okay.
they're still in the process of actually closing out their business.
I'll share my experience on this, and I was really one of those in the example. So, not because I do not know, I just didn't have the time, because I'm based here, right? So, um, it's not enough that you know, when you stop doing business, for example, and many of these are sole proprietor, you have to go to your municipal hall or city hall, and you have to do what you call retire. Okay, retire the business. Otherwise, if you do not retire the business, and even if you're not operating, fines will be there. Okay, that's one. Number two, in the BIR, it doesn't mean that you close your business permit that's it already. No, you have to apply for closure in the BIR, because if you do not, the BIR will give you what you call open cases. For
Correct.
every quarter and period that you do not apply, you will have open cases, and definitely penalties will be there. So you do not wait. Do not wait. So if you are an OFW, have the same problem, issue a special power of attorney. Go to the consulate, issue an SPA, make a sworn state SPA in our consulates with the person that you are authorizing, and he will do it, the closure in the Philippines, properly.
Yep. Much better.
And if you're really not sure with regards to the following questions that's been raised, one of the simplest advice that I often give to our clients is you just have to ask.
Yes. Ask.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to really ask. If you're not really sure, it's not, you just have to ask. Either you can hotline, either you can go directly to their office. Just really just ask.
Yeah.
There's
Agree.
nothing wrong with asking,
There's
actually.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong
That's
with
where we get our
asking.
answers. And as to just a summary, when do we actually start paying taxes? It's when the certificate is issued, and when do we actually stop is when we actually close with the BIR itself. And what are the taxes that we should pay for is actually in the BIR certificate itself. So everything is actually there for us to look at. And now that we have managed to know how the tax system works, let's get into the real business and talk about hiring and employment regulations. So let's talk about the key labor laws and regulations that business owners need to know when hiring employees in the Philippines. And what are the minimum wage standards and the working hours regulations?
Okay, I think I'll start with this, if you don't mind. So, very important that it's when you are doing business, there's a lot of legal compliance that you need to do. This is best practice and good governance of the business. And it will also give you good status with the government when you're doing compliance. And not only that, maybe to your clients as well, right? So if you cannot do simple compliance with the government, how can you give and deliver your commitment to your clients when the government you have a primary commitment with, you cannot. So that's the simple principle on that, right? And one of this compliance that we really need to understand is the labor law. So in the Philippines, our country is pro-labor, okay? Many of the statutory provisions of the law are actually leaning in favor of the labor. Back in the Philippines, when I was a junior lawyer, most of the cases that I was handling was relating to labor, and the common problem that we encountered, and we were representing the labor and the union at that time. The common is that people are not paying the proper minimum wage. That's number one. Okay? They're not giving the proper benefit in terms of SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth. Number three, they do not provide the necessary minimum benefit in terms of 13-month, for example. I mentioned already the minimum wage, the rest period, overtime. These are things that the labor or the employees can conveniently, I'll tell you how convenient they can file the case. So if they have this grievance, they can just go to any NLRC or DOL office. They can do two things. One, they will report you to DOLI that you are not complying. I will discuss the compliance later, but I will tell you the consequence of this, how they will do this in the perspective of the employee. If the company is not complying, this is what they will do. They will do two things, either of the things. Number one, they go to DOL and report to you. What will be the action of the DOLI, Department of Labor and Employment? They will send you a letter asking for an inspection. In the inspection, they will now check your compliance in terms of labor benefits, and this is where they will catch you. When they are caught, you will be directed to pay with a grace period, and then if not, then it goes to a different legal level already. The second option is they go to NLRC. They go directly with a legal option because the first one is an administrative option. The second one would be a legal option where the laborer or the employee will go now to NLRC, National Labor Relations Commission, who handles labor disputes. And there, you will do a lot of things. As an employer, you are now going to hire a lawyer, okay, to represent yourself. That's expensive. Then you have to come up with a settlement if you are willing to settle. And if not, then it goes further to a long period of legal dispute. You want to avoid this. So you do it right at the beginning. So what are the minimum requirements? You start with minimum wage. Minimum wage, unless you have an exemption certificate from micro business enterprise, okay, you have to comply the minimum benefit, and the minimum benefit will be different from each of the regional board. Okay, so each of the region will have what you call regional wages board. They are the one who set up the minimum wage. So Metro Manila, for example, is different from Metro Cebu or from Surigao City or for Davao. They would have different minimum wage. Okay. Number two, you will have to do the basic minimum requirements on the labor in terms of night differential, overtime pay, premium pay in case you're off, you're asking people to work on off, or they work in holidays. So you have to pay premium salary on this. Okay. Number three is you need to give them 13-month pay, mandatory 13-month pay, and you would pay this on December. Okay. And if you add more, better also. Then you have SSS, PACIPIC, PhilHealth. Okay. Many of the minor issues in many of the entrepreneur is this one. So if you have not applied for MBA, micro business enterprise, you are required to do this because by the time, for example, you've operated the business, you have employees already, no? And then you register, let's say 3 years after with SS PACIPIC, and they found out that you have employees, they will ask you and bill you for the contribution of these employees and with fines. And then, for example, those employees is not there already, then that's a problem, right? So these are the standard minimum requirements that you have to comply as a business, either you're a sole proprietor or a corporation.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Dex, for that. And I think all of the like OFWs or foreign nationals are looking into how do we actually, what are the rules for labor contracting and outsourcing in the Philippines? So who can take on this question? So I think, Sir Chad, you can, as I believe that you have also based in Manila.
Cebu.
Cebu, yeah. Sorry, Philippines.
Actually, from our end, we don't have any contracting or subcontracting contracts. We are actually having a contract directly with our employees. So, as what Attorney Dex had mentioned, all of our employees are actually in compliance with the SSS field at Pag-ibig, and the requirements as well that we have considered is also the minimum wages that is available in that certain region. At the same time, you have to consider as well the 13-month pay. So when we are actually trying to do some simulation study or a financial forecast of our company, we have considered this already, all of those necessary expenses, and it is a must that businesses should consider as well when you're trying to build up your business and when you're trying to have a consideration of having an employment. You have to take into consideration that you have to follow whatever is required by the government in terms of managing your employees. So one of those requirements, as mentioned by Attorney Dex already. So I don't want to add more with Attorney Dex had mentioned. It's already the list of all of the requirements.
Just to answer your question regarding, you're asking about what about UAE businesses wanted to outsource employees in the Philippines, right?
Okay.
Okay. So there are two ways to do this actually. The safest way would be either to create a company, which some of our clients are doing. They set up a company, and then that company is being managed outsourced by someone. Like for us, we are the one managing that for the client. So the hiring, the benefit, that organization is the ones going, because again, corporation is separate from the owners, right? So that corporation will be now responsible for the compliance of the withholding taxes of the payroll, the minimum benefits, the salaries, the creation of the banks and the payments. It's done by the corporation. That's what we did for our outsourcing, right? Now, the other way and the more popular, what's going on now in the Philippines, when I said this earlier, the beginning of our podcast, is there are a lot of companies that are outsourcing directly to talents in the Philippines. So
Yeah.
they've done this either through a platform. Okay, let's have example would be
Upward.
Upwork, or they publish the jobs in Indeed, then they have a direct application. Now, question: where the employer that is in UAE will be responsible for the minimum compliance of the salaries of that employees in the Philippines? The answer is no. Why? There is no physical entity. They are not considered resident businesses there. But the compliance is more on the employee. So if this happens, normally we recommend that the employee who's doing outsourced work, which particularly right now virtual assistance work, there's a lot of that in the Philippines, that they register themselves as a self-employed. So they pay their own taxes. They go to SSS Pag-ibig PhilHealth as a self-employed, so that they still get the advantage of having pension, Pag-ibig benefits, and PhilHealth for themselves. But whose responsibility? Not the outsourcing employer, but the employee themselves. So the only thing that the employer will be responsible if they set up the company. So that's the difference, right? So if there are employer outside the Philippines or in abroad that does not really require a legal or a formal structure, maybe they will hire one or two. They can do the typical platform outsourcing. But if they feel it's a very serious and they require special talent, they have to set up the company, ask for them to be the employer of this employees.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Attorney Dex.
answering that.
I have additional one for that as well. If ever the employer have taxes in the region, let's say for example UAE, the problem would be is if they are extensive in outsourcing directly to these individuals, they would not be able to claim expenses or deductible expenses for that certain individuals. So
Yes.
that's the only drawback that they will be having.
For the UA company.
Yes.
Yeah, you're correct.
Even for US companies and all of those stuff, if they don't have any invoices, official receipts that has been issued to them, it might be a bit difficult.
Maybe this is a side out. Maybe this is not part of our topic, but we have actually clients here in UAE that is doing that relationship with a lot of the Philippine talents.
Yeah,
And they come to us. What do we do? A very simple answer. Just ask them to issue you an invoice. That's it. So
correct.
that's a very simple answer. Don't
Mm,
record them as an employee in your books. Record them as professional worker or consultant. That's it.
correct.
Okay, so for employees actually who are actually self-employed, they can just do their own benefits as to SSS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth. It's their own responsibility. And as for the employer itself in the Philippines, what they need to do is actually, I think they think that this benefits and paying the employees the right amount of like their salary is costly for them, but it's actually more costly to actually not being compliant.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
So in the long run,
let me just add, there's an advantage of putting also a business that will handle these employees as well. Why? Because they become more attractive to talent. Of course, the talent would prefer paying half of the contribution and the company will pay, because if you're self-employed, you're paying 100%. That's one advantage. Also, there are also other benefits that the company may provide, HMO, for example, or additional bonuses, which is not present in the structure of the direct freelancing model. Carlos,
Yes, attorney. Again, attorney.
you're adding something?
No, I think what I'm trying to add, attorney, is just a reminder that for free, if you're categorizing yourself as a freelancer in the Philippines, You just have to make sure that you're registered as one with your local
Mhm.
RDO. Yeah. And ensure that your TIN number is um what's the term? I would say right for your location, because just to give an example, if let's say you were previously employed, let's say in Manila area, and then you went home to your province, and then you got a job online as a freelancer, or the nature of job that Attorney Dexter described, we have to ensure that to update your following with your RDO, both with your TIN number, just to look at if there are changes necessary, and to register yourself as a freelancer, because you will still need to report your earnings as not necessarily payroll, but more of in self-earned income with your RDO.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sir Carlos, for that additional information for those self-employed or freelancers in the Philippines as well. And now that we are talking about the employees, let's also look at how we navigate the local market effectively. So what do you think is businesses better understand about the cultural and economic landscape of the Philippines, and what actually influence the consumer behavior and preferences in the local market? Maybe Sir Carlos, you can answer also on this one.
That's a tough
I
question.
think, yeah, that's a very tough question, because it would really depend on where your situation, what's really in demand, what do people need, what can you offer. You have to take all of those things into consideration, and then you have to take what we've been discussing for the past 2 hours again into consideration. What business structure what best suits you? How will you promote the following? So yeah, maybe my direct answer, or the first thing that came into my mind when you asked that, is here in the Philippines, everything is going digital or online. So maybe that's one thing that business owners have to consider. There are less face-to-face interactions and more online direct contact or direct call transactions. I guess best example that I have is, I never thought that my mom would spend hours in her phone on an online shopping in Facebook. Almost all of the things, the new things in our house are from online shopping.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that she discovered recently, and it's become a habit for her, financial wise. But for business owners, that's something that they have to look into. And I think that's one thing that really stuck to me when Attorney Dexter first initially interviewed me here in LiveSync. His goal for LiveSync to really be offsite, to promote cloud-based accounting as the future of accounting. So that was the thing that benefited Attorney Dexter's vision or business model for LiveSync, and that's what he adapted, and that was what was something that was in demand, or is currently in demand during our times. So those are some of the things that I would have to say current business owners and those who would like to set up their own business have to take into consideration.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Everything
let
is
me add.
automated these
Yeah,
days.
let me add to that in terms of market, trends. I have to
Mhm.
segregate this. Like maybe for big businesses, it's totally different. But I think speak on small businesses, the drive of the small businesses. Again, as emphasized already, technology has played a bigger role. So let's say compared 15 years ago and today, when you try to decide, I wanted to sell this, I wanted to sell this product. 15 years ago, you would, or 10 years ago, you would be hesitant because you would know it's difficult to market your product, right? But at this age, because of technology, it's the decision process is faster. And therefore, people will think, okay, I have this product, or I have this product I can sell in the platform, Lazada, Shopee, or I can market this on my own or work with an influencer. So this new technology has has an impact in the decision making of people trying to jump into business also, right? Technology also present more information how to prepare and start the business. 15 years ago, you just have to talk to a directly face to face with a business owner and ask his opinion, or you talk to a consultant. Now you don't need, you just go to YouTube, and many materials can tell you on how to proceed and teach you on how to do. And because of this information, there's a lot of encouragement coming now from everyone, and to think whether I really need to do a job or start a business, right? And there's already that information available on how to at least mitigate certain risk. So the decision making is faster, and because decision making is faster, I would say the drive currently is because of the influence of technology. That's why people are into business. But for the big business, it could be different. So I would say, for example, in agriculture, or example in technology as a whole in manufacturing, right? So some of this drive used to be about cost-effective labor, right? But I think this is not the case right now. I think the emphasis now is more on um, quality of talent. So instead of cost-effective talent, yes, cost-effective is still there, but you still get the 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 quality of the talent, right? And access of in terms of quality, the opportunity to work with good speaking in English, English speakers in the Philippines. So this is one, because they set up, let's say, just an import export business, but all the goods not necessarily sold in the Philippines, but it's also sold. And also the growth for these big businesses are also again driven by technology, by the way they improve their marketing methodology, using technology as well. And AI particularly right now.
Yep. I would like to share maybe an experience. When I was I was actually subscribed to one of maybe platforms online. It was a US based platform, and then I have made some inquiries. And when I was calling them directly, the persons who are actually answering my call are Filipinos. They are resolving my queries. Aside from that, that's one service provider. When I was calling again for another service provider, same thing. Filipinos are still the one who are answering the call. When I was asking, okay, I have a question about this certain perspective. Why is it like this and like that? Call center agents from the Philippines are the one asking you with it. And during pandemic or after pandemic, those provinces from before have changed drastically. As what Attorney Dex has mentioned during the first introduction of our podcast, he had mentioned about becoming the provinces becoming as semi metropolis. That actually happened. And in terms of technology, it has advanced. I have experienced and I have seen that a simple company or a simple you could say provider of construction materials is having their own system. And you know what accounting system they have installed with their business? It was SAP Business One, a small company who is actually having an installment of SAP Business One. And a SAP Business One will cost you around 500,000
Yeah.
pesos. So how is it possible then? So technically, companies in the Philippines have grown much. And by that certain experience itself, market is actually growing. So there's a lot of potential. And as Carlos had mentioned earlier, that um, experience with her mother as well, buying all of those stuff from online. Maybe that's also one of the areas that has been improved a lot during those pandemic times. Because even from our island, I came from an island actually, and the island is a bit difficult to travel with. But right now, there's a lot of changes. It becomes a metropolis. And even they themselves are actually buying things online. So they would be having maybe some shipment, or even they are actually having a fun videos with it. Like they have already the package in place with them. So something like that. So I guess with that being experience in the Philippines, Philippines would be a good market to do some either services or some new venture of business. And as Attorney Dex had mentioned, they if you think about new business, it would not take much time because it becomes digital nowadays. So if your business is actually really good, just introduce it. People will be loving it, then they will be buying it.
Yeah. Uh, that's a really good statement, Sir Chad. So thank you. And I know that like really e-commerce is having a boom in the Philippines, and for our emerging and the technology that we have there is something to look at when we do and set up a business. So now that we actually looked at that on how to navigate, what are the challenges and opportunities that the businesses actually face when they enter the Philippine market? So maybe we can ask Attorney Dex, like, what were your struggles before when you
Yes.
started business?
Actually, my struggles before and the struggles now are the same. It's just really looking, and Carlos can attest to this, really looking for the right people. And you know why? It's not that the Philippines is wanting of good quality employee, no, or scarce. No, there's no scar. The challenge, while the technology and the sharing of information brings good opportunity to the Philippines, the same opportunity creates some challenges for businesses like me, since I'm in the outsourcing business, because there is now the competition of getting the right talent, and sometimes the right talent is now equivalent to higher cost. Okay, so as a business, you would want to run your business cost effectively, right? And therefore you try to balance this all the time, every day. Now think of it, 12 years ago, okay, when we were hiring juniors, we have a different set of talent market. As an accounting company, we did not compete with the big four because we're looking for fresh grads immediately, right? With no experience, no problem. But after COVID, these things change because our market now, employee market, is totally different because a lot of certified and experienced, for example, for fresh grads, the fresh grads now are being employed with the big four because of the scarcity of CPAs. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the competition from outside who are outsourcing the same talent who is paying more, right? This is the challenge. Again, it's not that we are scarce of talent. We can still get good talent actually, but it takes a lot more effort. It takes a lot of time to find where they are. So then as a business, you have to adapt to that, make some changes. Luckily, we love change all the time because we're in the technology first market. We try to make that changes, and praise God, we were able to find those. But again, the challenge is just taking time. It's just difficult. It's not enough you post the job. It's not enough anymore. It's not enough. It's not enough. That's my challenge. Just looking for the right people. Number two, in the nature of our business, because we're offering online accounting solution, right? The Philippines is still struggling as a general to adapt to this type of accounting. So many of the small businesses still prefers to outsource it with their neighbor, accountant, bookkeeper. This is still the case. So we are yet, and then plus also the challenges of having softwares registered with BIR. That's another challenge that we need to get that. I know VIR is doing a great job to, slowly, make it more efficient for everybody to submit and, online. But from the place where we are coming from in UAE, it's just too different, right? If you agree, Chad, right? So in the Philippines, there's still that, there's still that process that still takes you time. You still have to meet people. You still have to line in the bank sometimes. Compared to, again, I'm saying this in comparison to what I experienced in you. I'm not saying the government's not doing the. I think they're doing a great job. They're improving a lot, but it's just the improvement is a little bit slow, right? The adoption of technology is a little bit slow, right? And however, I always predict this, by the 2030, I think a lot of things will change in the Philippines because of technology. And if this will happen, it brings more good to the Filipino because access to the good talents. But then, of course, the challenge is the local companies. They're going to, there will be a time that there is a competition into talent. So it's really generally, it's just good. But again, that's my two major challenges.
So thank
For
you.
me, I'd like to share the risk.
Yes,
Not
please.
risk on perspective of risk, but it's more into acronym of having the risk. Basically, first would be um, having the relevance. That could be an opportunity at the same time a risk. If you're not relevant, that it would be a bit difficult for you to maintain in the market. That would be one of the challenges. But if you are relevant, then yes, you will be able to succeed. That's part of R as well, or part of the risk, as what mentioned by Attorney Dex. One of the challenges would be retention. Retention of the employees. Actually, the retention also correlates with the generation that we have right now. So one of the experience that we do have is most of the current generations or current new generation of employment is actually very knowledgeable. They're very keen and very knowledgeable. All of the things, if you will be giving them research, they're really good at it. But in terms of application or in terms of accepting the challenges, I'm not having this one in a general perspective. I'm just giving this one based on the experience. There are actually some cases that most of the current generation have some issues in terms of dealing with challenges. If, for example, if you will be giving them challenging task, you will be receiving the next day a resignation letter. This is one of the cases that has been experienced as well. So this is one of the challenges for the generation that we do have right now. Instead of looking into the perspective of this is an opportunity for me to learn and to experience this kind of challenges, the next day you will be receiving, why do I have to go do these challenges? I have to go with a happy life. So that resignation, another company will be hiring me, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So that's one of the things. The second one would be more into an opportunity of making it more international. See, because of this Philippines being one of the countries where the service is actually really good into communication in terms of providing the services, Philippines is actually now one of the international market. Why? Because Philippines is also the one of the countries who is actually providing services internationally. So we are really open nowadays. So it is one of the opportunities that we do have. And aside from that, as what Attorney Dex had mentioned as well, this is also one of the cases that we have some challenges with. Why? Attorney Dex had mentioned about hiring talents. Because it becomes international, companies who is actually situated internationally is also looking for talents in the Philippines. And for those companies who have actually presence in the Philippines, it becomes a challenge. How can you compete a salary rate of an international market, which is around 100,000 for one talent, and then you have a budget only of around 50,000? It's a huge disadvantage for you. And so basically, it would be either you groom your talent internally and wait for them to go for an international market. So that's what normally happens. And aside from that, one of the key factors that we have some challenges with is actually on terms of specialization. So it could be an opportunity, it could be still a challenge for you. Why? Because of this market in the Philippines that you could actually go directly on being digitalized, be digitally known directly. It could be a challenge for you. Could be, for example, you are creating a product and suddenly it becomes a high trend product. Then eventually, after being high trend product, after all of the people had been tried that certain product and they forgot about the product. We have a case. I'm not sure if it has gone to some other countries. There was actually one ice cream company who is actually very famous in Cebu by that time. They are actually the first one who introduced the what's the called it ice cream. They will be putting a chemical. I forgot about the name of the chemical. It's just like a chemical that they will be putting in the ice cream at making it as readily made ice cream, and most of the people is actually going there and buying that certain ice cream, and you could see a lot of lines who is actually trying to buy that certain ice cream, and after some time, after they have been introduced in the market, and all of the people had gone. The reason why they have one of the main reason why they have um been removed in the market was because they haven't specialized that enough for that certain product. Now, the second one would be, or the fourth one that we have is actually more into the challenges and opportunity in terms of knowledge. So, knowledge could be taken even right now. You could just search. You could use AI. You could go and create articles or whatever it is using artificial intelligence. ChatGPT, you could actually utilize. Even creating an examination. For example, I have created some examination using ChatGPT for my applicants. So I could actually do that. So basically, it's an opportunity for us to utilize those available information, but it could also be a challenge. Our customers could also use these platforms. Instead of having consultants, I could just search. If you're the consultant of XYZ company and this is the scenario, what would you say? So technically, these are the factors that we do have. So I'll tell that if you do business, you have to take the risk. My risk is actually this one. So I'm taking the risk challenge, the relevance, the international, and then the specialization and knowledge. So this is the risk that I do have.
So thank you, Sir Chad, for sharing your challenges and risks that you have with your business, also for Attorney Dex. And I think every obstacle is actually just an opportunity for us to learn and adapt. And we just have
Right.
to be for the business to stay relevant as well. And then
Yeah.
we just keep pushing forward into that. And then
Yes.
we have actually it's 12:30 already, but we'll just work on the some of the
maybe
resources. We actually talked about this, the government resources that we
maybe
had
I'd like
earlier.
to add.
Yes, please,
I'm sorry.
Sir Cardi.
um, I like to add. It's more of a unique challenge that business owners may encounter. So thank you, Attorney Dexter and Sir Chad. They discussed primarily they discuss really more on the business point of view or the business perspective, or you as a business owner encounter in challenges that you encounter in relation directly to your business or the nature of your business, things that can directly affect your business because of the business, the nature of the business and the like. One of the challenges that I would just like really to add mainly because on an accounting perspective or point of view, and because it's something that I really encounter on a daily basis for business owners, is that they would often encounter challenges that may not be related to their business, but is related to is not related to the nature of their business, but is related to the compliance of their business.
Mm.
Often I have already seen businesses struggle or close because of their non-compliance with the proper regulating bodies. So be it with SEC or with BIR, they often face challenges. They often face they receive letters from this respective office. They're imposed fines because of the challenges they incur or with their non-compliance. So it may be a step away from the nature or how they run their business or things that may affect the industry of their business, but this is still something that each business owner should take into consideration when they are running their business,
Yeah.
because sometimes the penalties that you incur can be proportionate to the size of your business. So let's say you're running a big corporation, which we've experienced recently. We've experienced with one of our clients. As a big corporation, they fail to comply with a certain compliance with PIR regulations, and the corresponding penalty is proportionate enough to the size of their business that they can go under because of this penalty.
Good points.
So it's always a challenge. So it's always I really, as an accountant's point of view, perspective, or an advice to business owners, always take into consideration your compliances with your regulatory bodies, because it's good, it's healthy that you're running your own business the way you like it. I think business is booming. Let's say you have all those sales, the expenses are low, but you have to always take into consideration the government side of your business.
Yeah,
And
I
I would
feel like
say, and I would say it would be better to outsource those kind of stuff.
Exactly. It will always, if you do not really have a background with regards to the following,
Yeah.
it would be better to allocate certain budget or an expense for your outside services instead of the possibility of incurring a larger expense that
It's
would
a
have
good point,
a
actually, no?
bigger and a negative impact to your business. So, because your outsourced services, you can take that as business expenses, but for any penalties that your regulating body would impose to your business, the following cannot be contributed as business expenses
Yeah.
and would just be a flat out expense or negative value to the business. Yeah, so
I like
it's
what you
spend
said.
more to save more.
Yeah. I say more. That's another brand, actually. Anyway, I like what you said about earlier. Me and Attorney Dex were focusing more into the nature of our business, but we
overlook
tend to
this.
overlook
Overlook.
the
Yeah.
compliance part of it.
Mhm.
So basically,
Mm.
we could say for those who are aspiring business owners who are having businesses in the Philippines, much better for you to focus on the nature of your business, and then for the other perspective in terms of compliances, just to make sure that you are in the right track, give it to other person who is specialist with it. I guess that's the best approach.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we have to stay actually compliant and be informed with all the regulations and rules of
Yeah.
this BIR and all the other government agencies
Yeah.
in the Philippines.
Yeah. The real
And
challenge is being non-compliant.
yeah, it is also a challenge, and except for those also operating the business itself. And I think we have also talked about the government support and resources that they offer, like for example, DTI, BOI, and PEZA. And now let's just maybe ask one
One
question
more.
about this. Yeah, just one more. So are there, because I want to check like if there are business development or training programs that are available to help entrepreneurs. This is actually really, I think, a good question to ask. Maybe you know the answer into this and could help a lot of other people who are actually aspiring to be entrepreneurs itself or business owners.
Okay,
Sure.
maybe I'll start. No? Right. I think the easiest and the most convenient would be the YouTube University, right? So YouTube is there, but please do not discount um, also other option. For example, just by asking the question with the right people,
Yeah.
really, right? In terms of government facilities, I think if we're talking about registration, compliance, the website of this agency, I am very confident that all it's there, right? So even as consultants would actually use this tool to get more information, right? So there's no denying on that. But yes, this information are all available. You can start from there. You can browse, and there is one trend right now for many LGUs, no, local government. They have what you call a one-stop shop. So if you are planning to start a business for whatever, you can, and then you want to just meet someone and talk immediately, you have two options. You go to DTI, they have what you call Negosyo Center.
Mhm.
I've been there. The people there are so responsive. They know what they're talking about. They can guide you on the technical. They're not lawyers, but I think they're very trained ones. So Negosyo Center is one in DTI. That is an access. If you are in overseas, of course, you're limited only to the online, right? But if you go to the Philippines and you go home, visit one of these Negosyo Centers. Okay? Another would be simply going to your municipality hall, your city hall or a city hall. They have also like a one-stop, you know, information for you, because these local governments are actually it's not only, you know, managing their constituent, but they wanted also to be more autonomous in terms of revenue scale in their area, right? In their LGU. And one way is just encouraging more businesses. So I know many LGUs have developed this one-stop shop where you can visit and ask them on how to do it. Now that's the part of registration. But technical aspects of your business, how you market, what product will use, what for what model, financial model, the pricing and all this. There's a lot in the website. And you don't need to be in the Philippines to get all this. Even here in UAE, you can actually attend seminars also there that can give you all this information. But in terms of compliance registration, that one I mentioned would suffice for that.
I think your attorney Dex, do we have any other recommendations for these resources or we're good with that?
I
Yeah,
would
I
say
think
I'm good with it actually.
yeah, I'm good with it.
Maybe one more that I could add. Go
Mhm.
with go with someone or find someone who will be able to help you materialize your business.
Mm.
So I guess that would be a best approach as well. Like for example, if you could find some consultants or you could find some firms who is actually specialized with it, then go with it.
Mm.
And
Maybe the
Yeah.
real challenge here is just exploring the options
Yeah.
because the options are there, and more often than not, maybe we're too afraid, maybe we're too timid to actually take on those opportunities that are right in front of us.
Yeah, so we actually need to take all of this advantage of these resources that's available for us. And then before we conclude our podcast for today, let's just hear some final tips from everyone for all those people who are actually looking for or thinking of starting a business in the Philippines. So maybe let's start with you, Sir Carlos.
Um, my advice will always be coming from an accountant because I am an accountant. For everyone who's looking to open up their business, I believe the decision is really up to you, but always take note of the things that come with those businesses. Your sole responsibility is not only to ensure that the business is thriving, that the business is living per se, but to ensure that you are compliant with our government requirements. A really accountant answer.
Yeah, it's all on the compliance side, really, for Mr. Carlos. How about you, Sir Chad?
Maybe my advice would be taking this step. See, I'm looking into perspective of being an accountant at the same time a business owner as well. Sometimes we think that this is actually a good business, but we were actually maybe bombarded with a lot of considerations And you know what? Most of the business owners doesn't have the clue of what would happen in their business. I'm not sure with Attorney Dex, but for my end, I don't have any clue actually. I just started.
Yeah, I think that's the
And I
difficult
think
part.
from starting your business, from there you would be able to see whether it is feasible or not. And I guess if you have something in your mind that you wanted to start a business with, then go ahead. No one is perfect with it. Go ahead, just try, but don't invest with a lot of funds that you have. Try to invest only those things that you could think of that okay, I could invest with this much, and I'm okay with this much to be removed from my finances, and that's it. From there, eventually you would be able to do something beyond, or you will not be expecting that you're capable of doing this. So I guess if you have some ideas, just go with it. Try. So at least you will be able to have some experience. So I guess that's my advice.
Oh, thank you, Sir Chad. I think that's a difficult part actually to take the step forward. So a lot of other people are not just taking that step; they're just all in the mind.
Yeah.
But of course, we just have to try. How about you, Sir Attorney Dex?
Okay. Again, I'm talking about on personal experience now because this live sync is not the only venture that I have taken. I have a lot of business opportunities that I have taken and then taken in the past and in the present also. And it came with a lot of experience, really. And but don't take my word for it. But this is just my experience. Number one, and something that I cannot go away with. Partner with God. Okay, you see, consult Him first. Make Him as your partner in your business, because everything will align for you, and He will guide you. If He's not talking to you directly, He will be using other people to guide you. On the business that you are going to. So partner with God. Make Him as a partner in your business if you're doing a business. Do not start when your partner does not say go. Okay? If your partner say go, let's go, then let's go. Number two is really to prepare. Okay? Do not go to business without preparation. At least minimal preparation, not like super bigger preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation, when I say you have to calculate. Okay? So business is going to be very risky. In fact, they say 90% or 99%, whichever is true, will fail in the next 3 years, right? So, or that number. And there is really truth to that. Why? Because majority of the people do not calculate. So when I say calculate, I mean prepare also. So calculate, example, so I look at five things. So I look at what product, okay? What are the people requirement that I have? How do I package them, marketing them? How do we how to price them, and cost them properly? And then number five would be where will I put that business, the location, the place. So there's 5 P's. I always look. So at least you mitigate the risk by calculating. You don't go to the business blindfolded. No, I've been there, I did that, and it's a waste of money. And trust me, there's a lot of money that is being burned. And because of that, my family experienced certain difficulties because just of that. Right? That's number two. Make preparation. Number three, what Chad just told us, take the step. Because if you do not take the first step, nothing. The dream will just become a dream. It never becomes a reality if you do not take the courage. Me and my wife this was difficult for us. We have to leave our job, and we were very good at our job and the compensation, but we had to take the leap, and we were ready, and then we were not expecting that there were certain difficulties. But at least we take the step. For all the other businesses that we failed, we so took the step, and then we learn from it. So that's number three. Number four would be you need to have the right mindset as well. Right? Mindset. So when I say mindset, do not believe on the idea that if you are a business owner, you have complete relaxed times in your life. No, that is not very true, right, Jad? It's not very true.
24/7.
Yeah. So if you're working 8 to hours job and you're comfortable with it, that's fine. But if you are ready to take the plunge, you have to make sure that you are ready for what's going to happen. Why? Because you are going to be taking all the hats. You are the CEO, you are the treasurer, you are the marketer, you are the laborer, you are the technician, you are the cleaner, you are the HR. All of this you have to take this. So you have to make yourself your mind ready, and then be ready also for growth mindset as well, right? So do not build a business just because you want you want an extra income. But ultimately, if you want that, the ultimate goal is, like for me personally, the ultimate goal of having a business, one of those is really to employ people, right? So I have that desire to bring more and more people in the company so that I can help their families. The way I look at my family is 40 people. I always think there are 40 families that I'm helping. So that kind of mindset you need to build. And finally is that you just have to be open to change, open to learning, right? So every day you must learn everything. Don't say I'm 10 years already in this business, but there is still room to improve and learn. And open also to changes, open to build your culture. And one very important culture would be is really the care for your people. And I think I don't know if Carlos would agree. I would like to intend that our environment is a toxic free environment with rich culture where people would actually work together despite of distance. So that's it. That's all the things that I can share. As it's not maybe the right formula for others, but this is what I can share for everybody.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank
To
you so
answer
much,
your
attorney.
question, attorney, yes. I agree.
So they have an opening attorney Dex in your company.
There is.
Just kidding.
I'll send the link, attorney.
For
I'll
application.
send the poster for application.
Yes, please. So yeah, I totally agree with the first thing that Attorney Dex mentioned about partnering with God. So I feel like if we dedicate the business itself to Him, everything will be aligned from the 5 P's, having the right mindset, having the courage to actually take the leap, and everything else because He's there beside us. And so that are really great final tips from all of these three great speakers. So they're clearly backed by their experience as who have successfully ventured into the business themselves. So there you have it. If you're thinking about starting a business in the Philippines, I really hope you found today's podcast as helpful as I did. And a big thank you to our amazing guest speakers for sharing their time and expertise with us. So we've covered a lot of ground, and your insights have been invaluable. So to show our gratitude, we will be presenting also certificates of appreciations for all the contributions that you had today. Again, Attorney Dex, Sir Carlos, Sir Chad, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. We can't wait to see you at our next podcast. Until then, take care and good luck with your business
All right.
ventures.
Right.